Good morning. Welcome to the Edge of Light. My name is Michael Hemmett, and with me today is Ali'i Kiana Aina. Ali'i is a descendant of Hawaiian culture, of the Hawaiian people. Is a good friend, and he has an interesting insights about various things that, specifically in the Hawaiian culture, that are, I think, applicable to a lot of things that are going on for people around the world now, and in the individual family as well. So that's what we'd like to talk about today. The way that we pass down trauma from parent to child and generation to generation. And I'm gonna take that wind chime off. Pretty, but distracting. Okay. So, Lee, again, thank you for coming to have a chat with me. Yeah, you know, we were talking about various issues with our community here,
Mm-hmm.
and why some people, you know, they just can't move forward, and I was having that kind of insight with myself, like how would I feel about that, and I get it, you know, I understand. Well, I don't get it, but I feel like I can understand how difficult it would be to move on, and I was reflecting on that further, with which is that it's hard to accept an apology that you never got.
Yeah.
You know, and especially if the transgression is a generation past,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get that emotion, and then maybe that other person, they do or they don't, whatever. But can you resolve something on someone else's behalf?
Wow. You know, that brings up a ceremony that we were a part of. My mom attended a women's conference out in Virginia, and they had brought descendants from Pocahontas, descendants from um, whoever took over that part of um, her tribe, descendants from James Cook, my mom descendants from a Kanaka, Hawaii, right? To come and kind of spiritually mend that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was beautiful, and intention was good. I think you can, in that kind of retrospect, with that a lot of generations gone before,
Mm-hmm.
that you can kind of heal that, knowing like really who's like the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to speak the truth, and then only talking about that afterwards. And what I mean about that is, even with Japanese and Hawaiians, they have a real trauma in thinking that all Hawaiians hate Japanese because of the bombing of Pearl Harbor, right? They really feel remorseful for this. Um, and even like my brother's wife or friends, they've asked us, hey, how do Hawaiians really feel about the Japanese?
Mm-hmm.
And we're just like, well, honestly, if you put into real retrospect, they weren't bombing Hawaii. They were bombing the military.
Right.
But not everyone thinks that way.
Right.
Right? There are very real Hawaiian people feeling like Japanese hated Hawaiian people just because of where they bombed and not the context, right? So that part of the healing needs to happen so that the rest of everyone can get on the same page. Not everyone thinks like or is able to look past all of that and get to the real truth, right? And it's really odd, though, for me. It's really odd that there isn't such a critical thinking that is attached to common sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's really odd for me.
Well, I've noticed time and time again that it's the heightened emotions turn off critical thinking.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you look at politics, you look at, you know, when people argue with family and whatever, it's,
Right.
you know, very almost never is there logic or reason. It's just, you know, emotions get up and then people get all out of sorts and then no progress is made.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not surprised that, especially with these like really intense emotions, it's so difficult. But that's interesting because then it's like people are trying to sort something out while being so distracted by their own emotions.
Yeah.
And that's not to say like the emotions are wrong or invalid or anything, but
Right.
just that they're so intense that needs to be sorted out first, and then you can like
Yeah. And then, like, as you were talking or mentioning earlier about the generational trauma, like our generation was a part of the generation that was actually taught. Like they were taught by our, not my personal parents, but my friends or the community's parents, to hate holidays, to be pissed off with the Japanese.
Yeah.
You know, and the racial slurs and all of that is all just passed down. It may not be directly, but inadvertently because of conversations and things that are being said around the household, right? So there's even that part where even in my generation, Hawaiians were just like, you know, F the howlers, you know, these dang Japs, and I'm like, whoa, like,
yeah.
But yet, inside of me, I have both of those ethnicities.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I'm just like, yeah, I'm half Hawaiian, and then everything else is a mixed plate. So I'm just like, dude, just like, you guys are talking about yourselves.
Right. There's the irony there.
Yeah, super huge irony. And that part too, I'm just like, you were saying, yeah, that the trauma, all that stuff turns off critical thinking.
Well, so that, I guess that's what's tricky about it, right? Because you're just, you know, you're growing up in your home and then you're just absorbing this environment of resentment, but you don't have even context for it.
Nope.
So then how, and I guess that's what I can't wrap my mind around. Like, how do you get through something that you weren't even really part of, but you got the collateral damage of it?
Yeah. I think for one thing, I know that I am blessed because I have been exposed and really like enveloped into this thing called hula. My dad is a minister for a church, and so not necessarily saying that we need religion or you know, through the Hawaiian community, but really it's structure. Yeah, even in sports, you learn that in baseball when growing up, right? Something that gives you structure, anything that gives you structure, helps to build your critical thinking and all of those things, right? And then through our leaders of the community taking up these issues and actually speaking about them, going into the community, talking to the kids, letting our DOE know, like, hey, this is a real problem. Even though what's expected of them through the state and federal like mandates, what's expected of them for how they pass their children from first to second or into high school and graduate them, right? All that expectation has nothing to do with the well-being and the future of the children. It's really just breeding good employees. Show up on time, do what I tell you, eat lunch when I tell you, leave when I tell you.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no more trade schools. There's no more home economics. They don't even know how to write a check. Right? So if we were talking about the other day, our government officials, really it starts from like us on the bottom and then going back to the top, and then it's this cycle that has to happen. I think, in order for it to finally like reach to the outer ends, and then if the child chooses not to participate, then that's something totally different.
Mm.
Because that's a whole different thing, right? When you know the answer, you have the help, and you still choose not to.
Yeah. It's funny because I would say that that happens a lot too because, you know, even if you can see the answer, like, well, if I just stop being angry, then I won't be angry, right?
Right.
but but no, that's, you know, various sense of like righteousness and like, no, that this is like something bad happened, and I refuse to like it's that weird thing. It's like anger is like a hot coal, you know, that you're holding.
Yeah.
And you think that it's injuring the other person, but it's
Right.
but it's hurting you. And I wonder if that's part of it. You know, if that's like as long as I can like hold on to the, you know, actually I'm thinking about, you know, as I'm processing, I wonder if there's a sense of like, if I forgive, let's say, the Howleys or the Japanese, then I'm somehow dishonoring the people that they hurt.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very real thought, and feeling, and also truth. Forgiveness for me is really not for the other person that did you wrong. It's really to move on past whatever you're feeling, so that you can stay and remain healthy, or become healthy again. Because most of the time they're sleeping at night, like,
yeah,
no worries.
Right. Right. Yeah. No. And I think that's totally right, because a lot of offense, I think, is not personal. It's, you know, it's not that it's not like directed or intentional even, but it's not personal. People hurt each other, not like, oh, Ali'i, because of who you are, I'm going to hurt you, but you're in my way and I don't care about you.
Yep.
You know, so it's more like that. But if you were to do something to my family and then I say, it's not personal and I forgive you, then I might feel like I'm not upholding my responsibility to protect my family, or to, you know, that I have a duty to be mad at you.
Yeah, you still do. You still do, and maybe not be mad, but there's definitely going to be boundaries. I've had to learn this, that forgiveness doesn't give the other person a pass, but in fact, it does set up that boundary, and it gives you, the person that was wrong, the opportunity to set that boundary, and say, okay, you've done this to me, I forgive you, but I now have this right to set this boundary. Like, I'm not gonna allow you to do whatever, or like, how do I say? Even within my friendships, I have a lot of boundaries because I'm protective of the friendships that I do have.
Yeah.
Very protective, because of trauma of other friendships that were not beneficial to me, right? And so in receiving new friendships, I do have a lot of boundaries, and I'm very upfront with it. Especially when it's very close. Like, our friendship is very, very different because we met through your mom, and then I enjoy our conversations, and
so I'm allowed to stay on your island.
Oh yes, it's so funny. So it's a very different building of our friendship.
Yeah.
Rather than having the friendship that, like, oh, let's go to the beach and just kick it, right? Very different friendship.
Yeah.
That kind of friendship, I'm super protective of, and I'm like, and I've actually told people, like, hey, it's not okay to take advantage of me. Like, I tell them right off the bat. Yeah. I've been taken advantage of, and I'm just saying, like, when I see a red flag, I will definitely let you know. If you're gonna fix it, cool. If you're not willing to fix it, we can't be friends.
Right.
And that when I tell someone that, that means I'm actually starting to care for that person
Mm-hmm.
and want to make sure that we're on the same page. Yeah. But anyways,
That seems like really good maintenance in the sense that if someone is mature enough to understand what you're saying, then that becomes its own filter.
Yeah.
Right? Because if someone just gets really offended that you would whatever, and it's like, you seem like you're going to be trouble down the road.
yeah. And I've had a couple of those too. And like, I'm glad I did it. Right.
Yeah.
But so going back to setting up those boundaries, right, after you've forgiven,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like I just cut them off right off the bat. Like I just say, hey, these are one of the things that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay with me. That's the boundary, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to forgive you. Let's work on this. And then that's so when we're looking at the generational trauma, taking into consideration the bombing of Pearl Harbor, I first immediately tell them, like, it is not their job, duty, spiritual walk to take on that
Mm-hmm.
from their ancestor.
Yeah.
And also understanding the Japanese way, they just are doing what they were told.
Mm-hmm.
They're trained to do so, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go here, crash your plane here.
Mm-hmm.
So even they really didn't have a choice. Those kamikaze bombers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when I start to talk about that, and that allowing them to understand that I know where they're coming from,
Mm-hmm.
then they're like, oh, this is like real forgiveness, because there is like a give and take, and saying, hey, like, I understand where there's empathy,
Mm-hmm.
definitely not sympathy, but definite empathy there. And then saying, okay, but why are you here? Because when people ask you for, like, when they bring those types of things up, it's because they really, really want something from you.
Yeah.
And that I've learned that as well.
Okay.
When they bring up like huge issues, or like a Japanese person coming up to me, especially a woman, talking about these things, like, hey, why are you here? Oh, well, they want to learn hula.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and they want to make sure that I'm okay with who they are, right?
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because some people might think that hula is a form of dance,
Yep.
which
It is.
it is, but there's a spiritual component as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were mentioning like how you might go about various activities as a way of healing, how do you see hula doing that?
Wow. Yeah. Hula is okay. So there is movement, body movement, which is part of oni. It's called oni. Oni is to move. And then you have ha'a, which allows your body to basically the type of movement that allows your body to get oxygen.
Mm.
Ha and ah. And ha'a also means to be humbled or to be lowered. It was hard work to move in that kind of a that at an almost 90-degree angle at the knee, and dancing in that station, lowering yourself in that station. So there's ha'a. Before there was hula. Okay, ha'a was a part of what we call lua, which is the masculine form of the hula, which was used for any persons to learn a spiritual kind of like martial art. Yeah, the movements of your feet was to strengthen your body for war. And I say any persons because at that time both male and female were learning. And then we get into hula because of King Kalakaua, or well, actually back that up. Hula or ha'a was banished, right, by the American government. Can't use the language. You can't do anything that was remotely religious or spiritual. So hula was banished. Kalakaua brought it back out into the community's eyes as a form of entertainment, but also as a form of an opportunity for us to start to practice and teach back into the community. Because all that stuff went underground. Okay, so then it becomes hula during Kalakawa's time. Now with the movements, it's physical, mental, spiritual. Physically training your body with dancing in that kind of a position. Spiritually, mentally training, because there were chants. There were long stories that you needed to memorize, challenging your mental, and then spiritual, connecting those two to the spirit. Now, healing your body with hula, with the movements like in Ami, which is the circular motion of on the hips, that allows the vertebrae to shift around, right? Side to side swaying, so you can understand the physical healing of the body. And then the mental, with the language and with its, we believe, i ko'olelo keola, i ko'olelo kamake. In the language is life, and in the language is death. And even when we speak it, it gives life or death. And so with hula and all that we do, it's all about giving life and bringing life to yourself. This symbiotic relationship with you, your family, the community, and nature around you. And then there's this spiritual connection to the creator, maybe not the creator, the birther of hula. Yeah. Who is very connected to nature, because hula comes from nature, right? We look at nature, these are the waves, this is the rain, right? And so because of that connection with body, mind, soul, and then now this nature, that brings like a full circle healing when one does it entirely as the form of entertainment, because that's a very real thing too. It's a form of entertainment that is very surface level. So we do have hula schools that do that as well. I am blessed to be a part of a halau, which does the former. Yeah. Also, we become therapists because our students are naggy or whatever. They're going through all kinds of stuff. We become therapists. We become botanists because we need to grow our own things. We are all of these things because it's necessity that we need to learn how to do these things. And so anyone who is in within hula will have an opportunity to learn parts of those things, which is why I truly believe that I was blessed and now have this mind because of hula. Yeah. And I think that is the same way with anything that you do that is rooted in Hawaiian culture, whether it be fishing, surfing, even running. The Kuakini runners, they gotta train. You gotta know the land, right? So anything that you do that is rooted in Hawaiian culture really is gonna help you to heal, navigate, all of those things. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, that was awesome. I got mesmerized for a minute. I had some questions coming up, and then I was going to mention something that I guess is a little bit of a darker note, but I was clearing out some haliconia yesterday.
Okay.
And the way it grows is like it'll send up a shoot, but then it'll also send out runners underground.
Yeah. And
I was just thinking about that in the context of like an invading culture, because I'm basically invading this haliconia. It was in the yard and I want to get rid of it. And if I just take what's on top, it'll just grow back.
Yeah.
But if I want to destroy it, I have to damage all the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reflecting on that in terms of this generational trauma, and I do think that, and I don't know, I wasn't there, but I would guess that a lot of the generational trauma was on purpose, because if you wanted to suppress or destroy a culture, you do intentionally damage the children
Mm-hmm.
so that they can't grow back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like kind of I get a lot of insight out of gardening, and
Yep.
and as I was doing it, I was kind of feeling bad. I'm destroying this community, but I'm gonna put other plants here, and
Yeah.
try not to be too dramatic with those plants, but I could see that, and then you see, like, with the Hawaiian community trying to now basically like rebuild itself, but not having that coherent structure like we were talking about before. It just takes an enormous amount of work for these like separate small like families or pods, or like I'm in this lineage and I'm in this one, and there's not a single coherent force there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First off, that's a great analogy. We use plants, nature, like I learn from nature every day. Then it's actually, we believe Ike Papalua, which is a duality of your knowledge. So what you were saying about how, like, if you take off the top, there's still the children, and you got to infiltrate in the children line, right? But if you flip it on the other side, in order to infiltrate, like this, is the main plant is like, hey, look at me, don't look at everything else that I'm doing, right? That's how Kamehameha got taken over.
What do you mean?